What are the challenges? Well, in a report from last year with Unisphere Research, they reduced latency is the most wanted OTT improvement. And it says it breaks social interactions, spoils the excitement, and makes enhanced second screen experiences difficult. Yes, latency is definitely important. Then when we're looking at today's platforms, where do the latencies sit? Well, out after the transcoder, where you get the different ABR profile, it starts to go into the packager, where we chunk up the video into chunks. So, and here, typically, is the first part that adds delay to the OTT service. And typically, we're talking about one to two segments of delay, sometimes even more, depending on the implementation. So in a typical default implementation of where you have chunk sizes or segment sizes of 10 seconds, well, then it typically adds 10 to 20 seconds of delay. Of course, you can optimize this by taking down the chunk sizes to typically in HLS, the minimum today is 2 seconds. So then you can reduce this. Then you go into the actual CDN infrastructure with the origin cache and the edge caches. That actually doesn't add too much delay, but it does add a couple of seconds of delay. Of course, again, depending on the infrastructure and the architecture of your CDN network. Typically, if you look at HLS, for example, it stipulates that you need to add 3 segments of buffering in the client. So of course, if you have the default value of 10 seconds, that adds another 30 seconds. So typically, the typical value here adds up to around 40 to 50, perhaps 60 seconds. That's typically what you see when you start a normal play service. It's typically somewhere between half a minute to a minute behind the normal broadcast you see on normal television. The other thing is synchronization. So this is typically startup delays when you start your play service. Then after a while, especially if you're looking at long tail content like sports, where you're watching perhaps an hour or 2 hours, after perhaps half an hour, you might have added another minute to your delay. So even if we start at the same time, depending on the infrastructure and the packet network conditions, you can add significant delays from the startup delay. And in HLS, it stipulates the maximum delay you can add on the client side is 15 minutes. Why is then the delay and the non-synchronized delivery important, or a challenge, or an issue? Well, one thing is, of course, the social. More and more people, and you can see this in most of the reports, that a lot of people today, when watching, especially live content, are also at the same time engaging in social activity. That can be anything from Facebook to chatting or emails or Twitter. And this is from last year's Super Bowl Sunday. You could say there was 28.4 million tweets during the game time. And it was over 185 million Facebook mentions during game time. If you add all the chat and line and SMS messages and emails going back and forth, and you remember also last year's Super Bowl, that really was very exciting up to the last minute. That could really spoil the whole event if you got an SMS or text message before you actually seen it on your device.